What's going on, YouTube? Sam Hatch, Culturedog, back here with another video, and this time I'm going to go back through my entire collection of LaserDiscs. I did it a couple years ago. I did a A through Z, and then I split up a few other things like Criterions and box sets, etc. And I figured, let's do it again. It's been a few years, but let's split it up because I've been meaning to go through and reorganize my collection anyways, and organize things by genre, so they'll be alphabetical within genre. And I've picked up so many discs over the years, and even though I've shown those in my LaserDisc collection pickups videos, you know, the collection itself has changed a lot since, 2014, 2015 or whatever. So let's go ahead and do it. But a few things obviously aren't going to change, like the Criterion Collection. So let's start with that. Figured it'd be an easy one to knock off, and I've added so many Criterion discs to my collection since the original. And it's one of those things. There's a couple of different ways you can come at collecting Criterion. Like, you can choose piecemeal the films that you love, and that's kind of where I was originally coming from. Yeah, things like Pulp Fiction and Seven and Brazil, etc., RoboCop. But then I never did get all the ones that I wanted, so I never did complete that task. Or you can go for a complete set. Either spine number complete, and you get all the different CAV and CLV variants and different pressings and stuff. Shoutouts to Daisuke from Tokyo, who's been posting a lot of great Criterion related videos lately, and he has, all the variants pretty much, ones with different logos and different spots, etc. So you can go that route as well. And I'm kind of leaning more that way now, but I haven't actually started actively collecting and hunting down titles. It's more that I've picked up a bunch of lots in different locations that have had a decent kind of seed of new Criterion titles. So I've got this kind of mongrel collection. It's not filled with everything that I want, from like the films that I love, and then it's not completely complete with all the, obviously hundreds of Criterion titles out there. It's one of those things. I like having the movies I haven't seen before. I used to pick them up on DVD too. I know when Suncoast Video went out of business, I bought a ton of really cheap Criterions because, believe it or not, nobody was buying them. They were buying everything but, and they were deep discounted. And I figure if it's, worthy of the Criterion moniker, worthy of me at least checking out once, even if it's not going to be my favorite film of all time. Of course, there's a couple titles in the collection that are very controversial, either from one end things like Salo, and then on the other end things like Armageddon, for different reasons. But that's enough talk about the Criterion Collection. Let's just start showing some discs. We're going to go in order, and it's going to be completely full of gaps and missing all sorts of great titles, but it's what I got so far. And number one is my only silver release. When these came out originally, they also had some VHS copies, which was interesting too. But they had a whole different design, and they had silver packaging. And it's Citizen Kane. This is courtesy of Sean Robert Gillette from LaserDisc Forever and the Laser Discotheque podcast. I believe this is number one, even though there's nothing on the spine. Came out in 1984. I'm going to pop open all the boxes in my later box sets video, obviously. So we'll wait to show you the interior then. But sorry for the tease. Apparently, Daisuke was saying there's even another variant of this that has the Janus Films logo on the front, where mine does not. It's a little beat up, but it does work. I was able to confirm that. And thanks to Sean for hooking that up. Yeah, apparently they were really into Orson Welles, because my next one is number 5, The Third Man. It's actually a Carol Reed film. Orson Welles is in it, though. And also M from the James Bond films is in it as well. I'm not a fan of the zither score. I'm relatively in the minority on that, but I know there's some other people that don't enjoy like exactly how it was implemented, so I'm one of those jerks. But other than that, everything else about the film is amazing, especially the big bit on the Ferris wheel with Orson Welles' chilling little bit of dialogue there. Then we move on to spine number 19, and this one's a little cracked on the sides. Yeah, this one's a little beat. This is the CAV collection, first printing in 1987 of Blade Runner. One of my all-time favorite films, and this was the best way you could get as close to the U.S. theatrical as possible in letterboxed on home video. There was pan and scan versions, etc. But this was actually the international cut, which had a little bit more violence and gore and what have you. But yeah, this was pretty much one of the coolest LDs of its time. There's 2 pressings of it, one by 3M and one by Pioneer, and the 3M one is prone to rotting. So of course I had to get both copies, and this one is way nicer. It's the same thing, same spine number, 19, but this one's in better condition and isn't rotted as far as I know. It's also a gatefold, so I'll show you the interior. Very elegant, and it also comes with a nice little note about Blade Runner. A lot of the early Criterion releases had notes about features about it. This one tells you about the supplements and the source, which was great, really cool stuff. Then I jump up to number 29, Fellini's La Strada, which I've not seen actually, but I do enjoy Fellini's other films that I've seen, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. One thing of note, I know if you've ever heard the LaserDisc podcast, we've complained before about the layouts of the early Criterion, how they just have the name of the film and whatever bland font they want to have, one still image in a very small square on there, and then their banner up top. I do like the banner and everything like that, but there's a lot of good wasted space there on the cover. Then we move up to number 38, Paul and Pressburger's Black Narcissus. This, like La Strada, I got in a lot, maybe about a year ago, something like that. So I've actually been trying to slowly power through them, but I still haven't seen this one yet. Heard some good things about it. This is number 48, Antonioni's Blow Up, which was the inspiration for Blowout, De Palma's film with Vincent Vega. Also a gatefold, so I'll show you that. Very grassy. Moving up to number 49. Great film from Kurosawa, Rashomon. It's remade, at least in spirit often, because it's, the tale of a horrifying incident told through the viewpoint of multiple different characters, and their viewpoints don't often match up in the details. In recent years, what's-his-face did it as Basic there, John McTiernan. But it's a great story concept that gets used a lot. I had the DVD, but sadly I sold it to pay for hospital bills, and that was a poor decision. Moving up to number 50A, the CLV version of Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game. This used to drive me crazy all the time when I do eBay searches for David Fincher's The Game. This would always come up. And I'm like, no, not that game, the other game. And then the classic, number 60. There's also multiple pressings of this, and it is a very nice box set. This one I just have the one. It's 1988 first printing of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And just like Citizen Kane, I'll be tearing this open in the box sets video so you can check it out. This one's, I always see this in lots when you could see like a box of discs. You can always tell from the top that there's a 2001: A Space Odyssey box in there. That one and the later MGM one are my two favorites for that film. The MGM CAV box is great. Number 70 is another Jean Renoir film, The River. I've not seen it yet, but it's on the list. But yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the Criterion Collection is you just got to look at it like a library. You run in and you don't need a library card or anything. You just run into your IKEA Kallax unit and late at night, pick a movie that you don't necessarily know that you want to watch and just grab one of them and then see what happens. Number 69, Giggity, should look familiar. It is the CLV version from 1989 of Blade Runner. Yes, every once in a while you don't necessarily want to mess with the CAV version, so you don't need special features, so you just drop this in. Transfer on this is actually really gorgeous. Both this and the director's cut that came out in the 90s, they both look awesome. It's a little bit different, but yeah, gorgeous stuff. And moving up to number 71. Here's another Fellini film that I do enjoy. 8.5. And I had the DVD of this, which I had loaned to a friend and never got back. But that was, I think he was moving cross country or something. So I don't blame him. But he needed it for some sort of podcast or something he was doing. The movie business is macabre, grotesque. It's a combination of a football game and a brothel. So yeah, nice jacket. I like the at least instead of a solid color on the back, they had that kind of design work, which made it a little bit more visually impactful. Then we're moving on to number 75. This one, interesting, has a Pioneer sticker on the back from Voyager Press. It doesn't seem to be a sales sticker. It's like a extra barcode that got added over it. I don't know if they changed the barcode numbers. But gorgeous release. I managed to get one in really nice condition of Ghostbusters. And, this is... I still don't have it in high def. This has always been so good a release. Like, I don't really feel like I'm missing out on anything watching Ghostbusters on this disc. It's got some good extras on here, including one that, as of press time, hadn't been issued on any later releases. And, yeah, it's just gorgeous. Came out in 1989. Let's check out the gatefold. Shoutouts to CAV or Bust, too. Another YouTuber who was releasing a lot of LaserDisc content for a while there and a big Ghostbusters fan, but I haven't heard from him in a while, so hopefully he's out there somewhere. This one also came with a cool Notes About Ghostbusters slip. And then I'll show you the interior with behind the scenes information. Then moving on to number 85, Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries. And by now they're starting to dabble in the idea of using an image for the entire front of the jacket, which was very, very good. Still haven't seen that film either. 1991 disc and film from 1957. So to check that out. One of my favorites, number 105. Another nice jacket with a cool kind of texture in the background. But the amazing Kurosawa film Yojimbo with Toshiro Mifune in an amazing role and remade often from films like Fistful of Dollars and Last Man Standing, etc. And based on a Dashiell Hammett story. I believe it's called Red Harvest. Great film. I also have that on Blu-ray. That's one of the ones that can possibly bronze. The LaserDisc isn't the only option for disc rot. Some of the Criterions have bronzed on Blu-ray, but I think last I saw mine was still pretty good. Moving up to number 106, another Kurosawa film with Mifune called Throne of Blood, adaptation of Macbeth. And the first time I ever saw this was in that documentary about Kurosawa that was on PBS here in the States. They were showing this like on a big screen, I believe in Tokyo, in a shopping district. And I was like, what is that movie? I gotta check that out. Any extras on here? Yeah, this one came out in 1991. 2 discs, but not loaded with extras or anything like that. Yeah, nice stuff. Number 113, Louis Buñuel film called That Obscure Object of Desire. This I got in that lot about a year ago as well. I've not seen it, heard tons about it all my life. it's a cool thing about the Criterion. It's like a film school in, video format. So if you don't show up to class, you can at least check these out later on your own time. This also was out in a CAV box set, which I don't have, which I'd like to pick up someday because it's a really cool film, underrated, and at the time, it just kind of hit at a moment where westerns weren't in big demand. 118A is this release, and it's Lawrence Kasdan's Silverado. But killer cast, fun film, and I regret taking as long as I did to actually watch it. And this one's not in its sleeve, and the disc is actually not here because I was watching it last night. 1991 disc number 121. Orson Welles yet again in Confidential Report, aka Mr. Arkadin. And this is one of those notorious Welles films that's incomplete. He was never able to finish it, and it was edited and re-edited and released in all sorts of different incarnations. There's actually a later Criterion release, not on LaserDisc though, that has, I think, at least 3 different versions of the film, so you can choose which one you like best. It's a bit of a hot mess. It's edited really haphazardly, and it takes a while to kind of get to the point of its story. But still, fun enough to watch. So I will be finishing that tonight. Actually, I'll leave that over on the side. Next up is number 124, and this one I didn't think I would find easily, but thankfully there are actually a decent amount of copies of this out there that are in decent shape and don't cost as much as they did about 10 or so years ago. I'm talking about the fabulous Dr. No. And Criterion released the first 3 canonical Bond films, and they decided to put commentary tracks on them when nobody had ever thought twice about what a commentary track in the world of James Bond home video meant. And Eon Productions eventually kind of figured out the score and weren't too happy about the nature of the commentary on here. Very unofficial, frank material. This is nothing really shocking or anything like that, but they quickly used some of the details in the contract for the licensing to force Criterion's hand into recalling these, or at least stopping the pressing. And they eventually did release the audio of the commentary separately on a little audio cassette that you could write in for, or you just deal with it and they reissued it later in CLV. I'll show you the interior. Pretty cool looking. Pardon all the cracks. Up next, going back to box set territory. It took me a while to find one in good condition, and even so, it's got a lot of shelfware and etc. But number 125, Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is a pretty formidable set and allowed you to choose between the theatrical version, or almost the theatrical version. There's one scene that's different, or the special edition, which came out a couple years later and added a whole bunch of scenes, took some scenes out, etc. But yeah, great release. And a little bit of a gap before we jump right back into number 131, James Bond Returns in From Russia with Love. And just like Dr. No, this also has a quote-unquote banned commentary track. But yeah, don't go looking for anything salacious or over the top in terms of commentary. It's just people speaking their mind in a time when Bond on home video didn't mean kind of what it means now. Great gatefold. The only bummer on these is around this time. Actually, this one's good. They finally learned their lesson in the early 90s. Sometimes they would put supplements scattered throughout the ends of each side. So if you have a CAV film with like 4 sides, there'll be a little bit of supplements at the end. And so when you're watching the movie, it'll happen in the middle of the movie. And they did that with Ghostbusters, so I was really happy when they stepped away from that. And you can't have those films without number 132, A Little Goldfinger CAV, with yet another banned commentary track. And yeah, these are all great. I don't recommend getting bootlegs or anything, but there is a very nice DVD rip of these where all the extras are laid out and nice order, and there's a custom menu to help you get to them, etc. This one also has some notes about Goldfinger. And some gatefold action. So I look on the analog tracks too. It's also got like a music and effects track or audio commentary on one. One of the biggest things or complaints we find in the LaserDisc Forever group are people that have players that have the capability to change from digital to analog tracks, but don't have the remote control with the button to do so. So they can't. Yeah, if you have a too old player, it can't play digital tracks. If you have a too new player and no remote, then you can't listen to the analog tracks. So you're screwed one way or the other. And then I guess we'll wrap up this part of the video with number 132A, a CLV reissue of Goldfinger. I believe I got this from Jared Kaufman on LaserDisc Forever, and it was sealed. Really gorgeous stuff. So yeah, no commentary track on here, but still looks very good. And yeah, 1992 this pressing came out. All right, so we're going to take a bit of a break and then get back into more Criterion discs. So thanks for hanging out with me. Talk to you later. Cheers.